Everyone on Zoom, welcome. If you can make sure you sign in the chat. It's been a long day. Sign in the chat, that would be great. So, hello everyone. How are y'all doing tonight? Well, that doesn't sound like heard Commissioner Adams. Mr. King. I think I heard. Anyway, so my name is Sharon Moyer. I'm with the Partnership for Children, and thank you all in person and virtual attendees for being here tonight. So I hope everybody got an agenda. I know Ben is sharing it on our screen over there, but this meeting aims to open discussions with local and state policymakers, child care providers, business leaders, community leaders, teachers, parents, etc., so that we can work together to strengthen the early care education system in our community. We know that there's a lot of challenges, and we really want to hear from everybody that's involved what the challenges are, so we can formulate a plan on how to move forward. So I will just ask if you're an elected official. Are you the only one in the room? Oh, I'm so sorry, Francis. How you doing? Heard you on the radio this morning. You did a great job. So we have two elected officials. So Commissioner Glenn Adams. And Francis, you want to introduce yourself? She was elected this last season. So thank you so much for being here today. Any other elected officials? Good. My job is to know who they are. So if you're a parent or a caregiver, please raise your hand. Wonderful. If you're a teacher, please raise your hand. If you're a teaching assistant, raise your hand. That goes for you people online too. If you're an administrator, now some people will fit in lots of categories here, and that's my point. Oh, Sean's just going to raise his hand for everything. If you're a business leader or in the business community, raise your hand. Public school system, private site, anyone from Head Start? And if, yeah, that's right, you're on the board. And if you're working at Partnership for Children, raise your hand. Awesome. So as you see, you know, there's a lot, we wear a lot of different hats in here, all through life we do. So this is really an issue. The challenges that we have with our child care system are really an issue that affects us in many, many ways. So again, I thank everybody here in person and online for being here this evening. And before we get too much further into the agenda, I do want to introduce Mary Sonnenberg, our president, and she will have a few words as well. You can do it. I know you can.
As Sharon said, it's been a long day. But that's what we all have had, right? I don't think any of us have empty, boring days, sometimes more exciting than others. But I do want to welcome you here, and really, these stakeholder meetings have been for listening. We know that our child care workforce is essential. The pandemic certainly showed that. But we don't necessarily have a system in place that recognizes the essential nature of that and the professionalism that needs to be done. And it's not a new problem. I've been doing this for over 40 years, and what we pay the people who do early care and education has never been what it needed to be. But our pandemic has sort of pushed it into, it is a workforce development issue. It is an economic viability issue. And if we don't have quality childcare and teachers in our classrooms, our parents can't go. And it is already impacting not just Cumberland County, but the nation as a whole. And so we've said this before, it is a public good. You know, we build the system on the backs of the private industry, and that isn't going to work. It hasn't for a long time, but we have to stop talking about it and figure out how we're going to fix it. And that is going to mean that we are going to have to leverage revenues and resources at every level. The local level, the state level, and the federal level for the system to work. And for our children to have what they need as far as quality education. So we really, today, having this in the evening, we wanted to try to make sure that teachers could be here, what their issues are, that we could have hopefully some parents and some input and struggles that you have if you go to take your child and they can't open the classroom because they don't have enough staff, which unfortunately happens more than we'd like to think about. We've been in, I think we're not calling it a pandemic anymore, it's a triple demic, and it's actually probably quadruple with every virus that's out there right now. And so it's been really hard for families to go back to work or to know what their child care is going to look like. And we know that stable child care is really important for children and their parents. So I really want to have that conversation continue. We are in long session with the legislature, and so they've been working on the financial budget. We had good early childhood investments in our last financial budget. I'm not going to say it was quite enough. But sometimes it's not necessary, it's not always the money, it's looking at how we do the system and how we implement the system. So it's a combination of both of those things, and we have to hear from the people who are affected by it daily to know what solutions to help come up with and propose, and to look at what we can do. We'll probably talk about a few examples of things that are being done in other places. Cumberland County is Cumberland County. We definitely have some new things here. I also know we have some really good people with really good brains in their heads. And the solution and the answers are usually not in my office, not in Sharon's office, probably not even in the General Assembly's office. We need to hear all of it. And it is who it impacts every day. And I don't want any baby to not have a spot in each one. And right now, if we look at that, I think Sharon will a little bit. If you have an infant and you weren't on the waiting list before you ever conceived, you probably don't have a spot. Because for every spot we have, there are 11 babies waiting for this. And we can tell you from Family Connect's data that we've had over 3,000 babies born at Cape Fear Valley in the last 12 to 14 months. So we know we got a lot of babies, not all of them need child care, but they do need resources and supports. And so I hope that you will take it to heart to put things in the chat room if you're streaming in, if you're here to really voice the things that you're frustrated with or any potential solutions. We were just talking about even our state bureaucracies don't make things easy, but neither do our federal bureaucracies. But we're probably not doing away with this. We have to be accountable for what we do. So please be willing to speak up. If you don't, we won't know what's in your brain. Sometimes I'm angry, but not usually. So thank you for being here, and I hope that we will have a robust conversation as we move forward.
Particularly on the paper scaler. So a couple of business housekeeping things first. If you have not signed in on one of the sign-in sheets, please do. We are recording this meeting, so we will post it on a web page that is developed, and I'll send that out to everybody here as well too. There were 4 things. Oh, so we do have some partnership for children subject matter experts here. So Candy Scott and Jolanda Jett, and of course Mary. I am a facilitator. I am not the person that can answer any of your specific questions about child care. So, and this really, the goal of this is really for us to have a conversation. You know, I don't want to stand up here and talk at you. Mary doesn't want to talk at you. We want this to be a conversation. We want to hear from our teachers, from our administrators, from our parents, from our lawmakers and policymakers, our elected officials. So again, you know, sit back, relax, and just let's do it. Also, because we are doing this live streaming as well to the Zoom, if you do have, I know everybody hates to, but if you can come to the awesome, and we can pass that around too. So first, Pamela Federline, who is in charge of our planning and evaluation department, put together some data for us, and that's on the second and third pages of your packet. And a couple of things to pull out of here, you know, from December of 2019, before the pandemic, to December of 2022, child care sites declined from 212 centers to 192. You know, while family child care centers increased from 71 to 81, We've still not rebounded the high of 88 in 2019. So you can see how that plays out from month to month there. Below that, you'll see the available slots. So FCCH, for those of you that aren't aware, stands for Family Child Care Homes. I meant to put that in the thing, and I do apologize for that. So Family Child Care Homes and Centers. So you can see there, as of December 2022, the available slots for infants through 5 years old. 5 years old preschool, meaning not aftercare, but they're in preschool. And then the next area there is the number and proportion of children to slots. So you can see that as well. And that again, as of December 2022. And then Pamela did bring out a few notes here. So 5-year-old preschool slots are challenging to measure because of those aging into kindergarten. Cumberland County Schools had 3,699 kindergarten children in August of 2022. NC Pre-K, which is a program that we administer, had an estimated enrollment of 1,295 in December of 2022. The December 2022 estimated infant population was 5,297. So, I know that K-12 is concerned about that number and the birth population that, the country in general has seen a decline in birth population, but that's not happening here in our community. There were 480 childcare slots available, for about 9%, or about 1 slot for every 11 infants. That's not a good average. The proportion of family childcare homes accepting subsidized care dropped from 67% in January 21 to 58% in December of 2022. And the proportion of child care centers accepting subsidy care remained mostly stable, with a high of 75% in January 2021 compared to 74% in December of 2022. If you have any other questions on any of this data, you can certainly reach out to any of us and we'll put you in touch with Pamela. So, again, I am not the subject matter experts. So any questions on that I may or may not? Pamela's online, so if there's any question, or if anybody in the chat has any questions. Great. So, oh, yes, ma'am. Well, they actually increase. Yeah. Subsidized. Yeah, they increase. I'm not sure. Do we know? Yeah. They can't hear you. You can't talk to the microphone ones. Oh, yeah. No, I know. They can't hear you. And we can pass that around.
They may not has certainly been the case in the past. I have a sister-in-law who does care in Massachusetts, and she doesn't need to take that care. She is full and in charge. Have a waiting license.
Hey, Sean, you want to be the microphone owner? Thank you.
It's a little, any of you that know Sean, it might be a little dangerous. No more dangerous than giving me one. So, yes, sir.
You know why the centers dropped so much?
So you're looking at the number of centers going from 217 to 194.
Yep.
Again, we could probably hypothesize. I'm sure Diana has some input on that. It probably has to do a lot with the staffing. Yeah.
You can't staff, you can't be opening it. Some of these centers hung on as long as they could, and couldn't staff. We also had a number of our Head Start sites close the sites and reallocate children to other sites in their license programs so they would come to that center.
So in September, a lot of our teachers that had degrees went to the school system because they provide benefits. So we lost a lot of our teachers in early childhood and when school started because school got the benefit and, you know, we're a nonprofit and we just don't have the same benefits they have. So that was a big reason.
That's certainly impacting even our programs that stayed open. They may have classrooms they can't staff, so they may. Some of our sites. Classrooms. It's a real issue. You know, the people in the field.
Any? Yeah. Any other questions? Oh. Do you want to sing Islands in the Stream? No.
Got a lot to say on this. So my name is Sean Gross. I'm the pre-K coordinator for Cumberland County Schools. And as I sat down thinking what I could do when I was able to hijack, what I could say when I was able to hijack the microphone, I think as a community, we do really, really well with the big things. The big things that we do really well with are educating our children, nurturing our children, and getting them ready for kindergarten. Also, I think we do a really, really good job at collaborating amongst various partnerships and we're in here and out of the community. And I think we do a really good job at leveraging our families. So we've got family members here that are here because of their sites that told them to come, and they're here to support, and that is really, really appreciated. There is a discrepancy in the private sites and what the school systems offer. And part of that is because the school systems, we've got a infinitely larger budget than the smaller center, but we have the exact same bureaucratic red tape to cut through. So our teachers and our teacher assistants have the exact same training and qualifications as those in the smaller center. So like I'm a learning center. You guys have teachers, lead teachers, and teacher assistants that have the same qualifications as a county school teacher or teacher assistant, but you can't pay. I mean, the reality of it is you can't pay the salary. And public schools in a whole, we're in a whole, WHOLE, are in a whole, HOLE, just the way that the private sites are in the community. Looking at our K-12 population, we are short-staffed right now in Fayetteville County schools. The only area where we're actually fully staffed is pre-K, and we are the benefactors of all that red tape. You all at smaller sites would have to follow like we do. So we do the big things really well. What's missing is where I'm going to look at our elected officials. Yeah, I'm not going to run for public office for that. I don't have any skeletons in my closet or anything. I even run my Boy Scout. But eventually, I probably will run for office so that I can help on the other side. Because no matter what we talk about here, I think
You have 10 seconds, Mr. Gross.
It is all about. It's all about the money. And we can talk creativity, what out of the kernel and all that, but it's all about the money. And we as a healthcare sector, we need what operates.
Thank you, Sean.
Right.
I'm gonna let you pass that to whoever needs to speak next. So we really want to hear input from parents, owners, operators of centers and family child care homes, administrators. You know, and some of us have been through this a couple other times, but we want to hear, what are your biggest challenges right now? What are the challenges that you see every day? Not putting you on the spot or anything.
Hi, my name is Debbie.
My name's Colin.
We're both parents, both of our children in Fayetteville Technical Center. Our children are 1 year old and 4-year-old. We've been really lucky that the children now both enrolled for learning center. But at the beginning of the childcare journey, we spent a year looking for childcare for now 4-year-old.
Yeah, then, so then, after our 4-year-old got was the nine, then we got our first child. We have another child. We still spend. Jump the line and skip. People. Too many questions, Brad. But it's still trouble. And we've seen amazing benefits from our children going to.
What did you do for childcare while you were waiting?
And
That's a yes.
we were very lucky. After we call ourselves childcare refugees, we left New York City and moved down to North Carolina so that we could begin to reach out.
Yeah, they when COVID happened, they shut down the us in a small apartment with a 2-year-old. I know. And you can't do it. You can't do work while you're doing with your child for months. We split it up where I would take him the day. Then go on the calls for schedule close enough to where so sure the rest of and that was great, but it was just not that measure. She's not a child care. She is a person that will love him, bad food and keep him alive, but the level of, growth that we've seen in a setting that's designed to foster that is hugely good. What we and others love him, some people that do not. So you're not missing. But it was also, we wanted two issues of the problems that she care. So we were very lucky to show our voice others. If we had not gotten into Ireland, we would have had teachers anyway. Whoever else available, regardless of the view to that's what we do to what to.
So, anyone else? What challenges do you see? Thank you, Angela.
Your provider stands up. Soon it will be filled in. Once it opens, it might be that, and right now it's slower the most. And that would probably staff. because I have very high standards. And the people who have kept my doors open are not the educators. They're the reliable for the most part. Now, I am told, because we have opened up and we walk in all the time, that we're doing a lot better than most. But I know the standards that we have, and we're not there. And it's really dark to see how to get that. Money is the issue. We've been blessed, I think, with the bonuses and the state money that's coming through, but it's coming to an end. And then the question is what now? And I intentionally tell my people every time, don't get used to it. Don't save it, put it away, you know, but they do get used to it. So when it goes away, I don't know what's gonna happen. My infant has been closed since the pandemic. So not see no, I don't see any light to get that open at this time because I don't have staff. At the one that's been on open since 1993, I have 2 classrooms closed. I haven't had a cook since the pandemic. My cook before was with me for I think, 11 years. And she was an older lady, and at the pandemic, she obviously not work, and she was with her son. And I have my directors have been cooking since 3 years. So, I don't know what the answer is either, but I do know that we require. In order to last year, even with my preschool, because I had such a turnover, turnover in my preschool classroom that I hired and paid for a tutor to come in and work with the kids that want to get out. And I knew that so much. That's kind of where we are.
Anyone else?
Go ahead.
I agree. You know, like you said, I would probably do, 5 to 8 interviews a week. And you don't want to jeopardize the quality of the person you bring in just to have a body. Like, I feel like we've created an environment that is warm and loving and clean and we work hard to get a fire, we do these things and it's just hard. It is just hard. And I think a lot of what I'm hearing too, there is so much training that is required for these teachers to do so much that they're just like, I don't want to do it. Like, I know, partnership, I know you guys offer like the Zoom calls and stuff. It's just like, okay, make sure you guys get your 10 hours and make sure you get your 20 hours because the state will be out and get a violation for it. And we're just trying to hold on to them. And it's just like, this isn't worth it. The $12 an hour that we make isn't worth it. And I'm going to say something. This is one of here, and she's 20 years old, and she was enrolled at FTCC for the childhood program, and she decided to switch her major after much thought because she's 20, she has her own apartment, she pays for her own car payment, she is trying to live on her own, but in order to maintain her life, like just day-to-day stuff, she has to babysit on Thursday night. And that's what she does because working in childcare just does not pay. Especially, $12 an hour is what somebody with a credential is coming out of school. That's what they make. But then we have all of this pressure on them to do all these training with health and safety and partnership classes and get your degree and do all this stuff. And it's just impossible because we're expecting so much of them with very little benefit. And I really, really try my hardest as a director, understanding what it means to be in childcare, that I try to do whatever I can to give them whatever incentive I can. And, like she said, just having the people, I think we have 8 vacancies. We have 268 children on our wait list. We have like 53 infants of mothers who are pregnant or have already had their babies, but like they said, when we already have a child there and their parents have another child, those shouldn't get preference because, you know, we want to keep them. So we move them to the top of the list. Well, 4 of our moms have just had babies, so guess what that does? Moves everybody else to the back. You know what I mean? It's just a cycle that I really don't know, you know, what to do about it. And like you said with the bonuses, you know, you tell them like they need, you know, look at the economy, look how everything is going up so much. I mean, to have gas, to get to work and groceries, and you know, there's a lot of, even though the bonuses are there, there's a lot of restrictions on what you can use it for, how you can use it, you know, whatever. Like I feel like as a childcare center, you know, we need to decide what best fits our people, because we know, like, you know, sometimes we have people that have to go 45 minutes, you know, they come 45 minutes away to work. You know, it's just like things you have to think about. But there's so many things that, you know, it's just, and I've been in all, this is my 3rd meeting with this, and I will advocate for whoever and do whatever. But I really feel like money, benefits, requirements, I mean, all these things need to be looked at. I mean, like right now, we pay for them to get their partnership for training classes, you know, I mean, we pay, you know, every time they're on average $20 to get 2 credit hours, you know, through Partnership for Children. And, you know, the teachers are like, we're not getting anything out of it, we just need to get more credits, you know, so it's just like, you know, it needs to be more expensive, you know, I mean, it just does. And I just think, like I said, we're requiring an awful lot from them for $12 an hour. You know, we have a teacher there who has a master's degree, makes $16 an hour. That's what, $33,000 a year. She does it because she loves it. Thank goodness she has somebody else helping her financially, because you have these single young, you know, teachers that are trying to make it, you know, they're not gonna stay. I mean, I know they're not gonna. So, I mean, again, financially, money, that is what we need. I mean, we at Highland, we have to raise our tuition, and we just put out a note that we have to raise our tuition beginning February 20th, because we're looking in the future and we're like, okay, we have got to do something so we can maintain the people that we have. Like we have to. So then it's, you know, it affects the parents, you know, and again, it's just a cycle. And I really don't, I mean, now we need to like act on it. We've had meetings, we talked about it, everybody knows what the issue is, we need to act as soon as we can.
So Mary, can you, for those in the room that aren't familiar with what the subsidies are that she was speaking to, can you explain that a little bit?
Childcare subsidized rates.
Well, what were you?
The stabilization grant.
Stabilization.
Out of COVID relief funds, there were a series of things that Vision put together to support providers. So there were stabilization grants for operation costs, for fixed costs, and then there were for compensation. And so the fixed costs are just ending right now. And they have extended stabilization grants for compensation in December of 2023. Those amounts have decreased each time because we knew they weren't going to last forever. So they were trying to phase them down so it wouldn't be quite the same clip that you're going to be going off of, but it's still a clip. There's no doubt in my mind that it's a clip. And so that is what has sustained you up to this point. Continuing those and them in bonuses would certainly be helpful, but that's probably not the long-term fix, because you keep doing that and then we don't build a system that's sustainable. We need a system that's going to sustain higher salaries for a profession that is, and I, product of K-12 education. I have an education degree, a licensed teacher in the K-12 world in early childhood, but it does start at birth. Because if we get it right from birth, our kids are going to be much more successful in the K-12 system, and we know that. But we don't treat we have a system that didn't work very well before, and it's absolutely important. And we have to make those changes, which is what, when we talk about shared cost, it has to be shared. No one entity can do it all. Parents can't pay what it costs you. I mean, I ran a developmental day, and my cost per care for each of our developmental day children, and this has been a while since I did it, was $40,000 or $50,000 a year. You know, so no, parents didn't pay. having that those children had special needs, but our state funding didn't cover it either, so we had to blend funds for that. So, and then when you look at childcare, you know, parents, you know, they always need some kind of fee that a parent needs to pay. Fee, it could be the subsidy based on income, but there really does have to be investment at the local level, which I, you know, the tax basis, you know, where you find the money, everybody needs it. And at the state, because education is a key part of what is responsibility. And without going into all the ins and outs of that, but it's also a good thing to do as well. We do get child development block grant money that needs to be looked at how we leverage that. But it will really take all three sectors, plus parents and private businesses, you know, how do you share that piece? And there are other states that are doing it. You know, in Michigan, they are looking at how they spread that share among whoever you work with, the state, local government, and parent fees, and that blending of those resources can help get it to a point where we could actually pay more than, I mean, we're not even paying. I mean, and anything we get put, you know, and a childcare, I had somebody ask me at a meeting, well, why can't they pay the teachers more if they're charging $11,000 or $12,000 a year for each infant? And I said, well, it's not just the infant, it's a business. You own your building, you gotta maintain it, and that's a whole nother nightmare. If you own your own building, if you're leaving, you gotta do that. You gotta feed the children, you gotta buy supplies, you gotta have training, and your personnel are still part of the B2B. There's no doubt about it. So it really takes looking at all of that. And again, it has been built in small businesses for, we have to change. And that means we have to make some hard calls and we have to say some hard things, but it is going to impose a lot of this. If you have classrooms closed and you can't even see opening in them, that's why it wasn't 1 to every 11, you know, infants a couple of years ago. It was still a childcare desert for infants in this county and in the whole state, but it's more like 1 to 6. And now we're at 1 to 11. That, how do you look about it?
Well, that goes right to the next thing is, you know, what would you like to see change at the local, state, and federal levels? I heard money, and then some money. And then also some red tape around training. Obviously, we want to make sure that our teachers who are educating our children are highly qualified and trained appropriately. But yeah, I mean, I can see that. Any other thoughts about what?
Hi, my name is Wanda Johnson. I'm a 20-year in-home daycare. So my head goes off. So all you centers who going through all of this, my heart goes out to you. I never had to do that. Mine's been in my home for 20 years, 4-star facility, on my own everything. So I commend you all. I know it's tough. I hear the stories. I read the reviews from different centers. And a lot of times we can't get children into a center because of reviews that parents have been through it that had different things that happened to their children, you know, with some of these daycares. And it's sad that a daycare, whether it's a home or center, will abuse a parent's child. And I think it hurts. So I'm not gonna call the name of the daycares. But anyway, you all continue to do what you're doing, and he will prevail. It will get better. It just may take a little bit of time to get better. But I wish we could stop some of these trainings. I think it's necessary to a person who have not been in business over 5 years. I mean, under 5 years. I think those are the ones that may need to go through all the trainings. Or you've been a business owner for 20-some years or 10 years plus. We got owners that's been in business for 30 years. And they keep asking for the same training. I have 2 degrees. Why do you keep getting training? You can own my license for infants. So, I mean, why do you keep, how much do you teach an infant? It's an infant. You feed them, you play with them, change them, they go to sleep. All these trainings, 20 hours. Gotta get 20 hours of credit. You know, the same repeat over and over and over. I paid for the degrees. Why do I have to keep paying for classes of the same trainings that is not being beneficial? It's not giving me a master's degree. I haven't got a PhD, but I have 240 credit hours in colleges, but have not got a PhD. That I think needs to be changed along with the money situation. Yes, we need money. We cannot continue to do what we're doing and be effective. Everything is going up. So why come our paychecks can't go up? They won't give us insurance. 20 years of my business without any health insurance. I had the Obamacare when it was going on. I finally turned 65 and I had better health care, thank God. But they took $177 out my Social Security check. So nothing is bringing revenue in any money into my household instead of going out. So I think legislators, whoever's sitting up there, may not have children, need to realize what we're down here dealing with in helping all parents, to take care of their children while these parents go to work. So these parents can feel very, very comfortable knowing someone cares for their child, not because of the money. We have done this for a long time. We didn't make a lot of money. We just happened to, by the grace of God, to get the stabilization grant money. That was just a blessing that fell. It's going away. So we're going to go right back to where we started out here. Less money. And it's not going to be easy. But we as providers are going to continue to do what we started out doing, and that's love every child that comes through our doors all day long until the parents come and pick them up. We're not going to shut our centers down or close our doors, and a mother sits out there looking for her child, and the child is out of business locked up in the dark. The little 2-year-old girl y'all saw on the news, where they locked their child in that center, and the staff was gone. We're not going to do that because we're doing it because of the love we have. I heard this young lady right here, Miss Diana, say that this young lady right here in her early 20s, doing something she probably had with you, but she loves someone else's child. 20-some years of age. She could be doing a whole lot of things, but she wants to help someone's child. That speaks volume. And they need to know that we'll do this because we love it, not because we have to. She don't have to do that. I don't have to do it. Most people here don't have to do it. We got enough money to go home and sit down. But there are other parents that need our help.
So, and we're grateful that people do this.
Yes. That's why I take my house from one that's going through. I choose not to. When I first started, I didn't want to send them because I knew somewhere down the pipeline this was going to happen. And I couldn't deal with it. It hurts to see anybody been abused in any kind of way. When you put your heart and love into what you do, and then you try to help people and they walk all over you, or they talk about your facility, or they don't come to work, don't want to do the job, or they try to find things wrong with what you're doing, try to turn you in the state, hide behind, throw the rock, hide their hand. It's just wrong. But we're going to survive. We continue to stick together, continue to push it. They don't give in. That might have to move some of the overs out the way. We don't understand what we're dealing with. Then legislature, we got to move them and get some young ones in and see what we're dealing with. I said, we always can't have no more babies. So they don't understand. So we get some young people up there who will have some babies.
That's
Get some more money.
So thank you so much. Anything else under change? Mary's got some information from some other states that she mentioned. The Michigan, it's called Tri-Share.
So,
Yeah.
again, that's one of the programs that they're starting to look at blending and creating shares of who puts money into the childcare industry. It is an industry, it's small businesses, and state of North Carolina is very pro small business, except when we don't support them enough to be able to actually do the business that they need to do. And it's a huge infrastructure in childcare. As Sean talked about the public schools, that's a much bigger network. Bureaucracy. But, you know, they have buildings and classrooms and, you know, I actually have a friend who is in Oregon who actually, Christmas said, we don't have enough childcare in the community he's in, city manager. And he said, you know, I'm looking at what I can do as a city. You know, because we actually need some younger people in our city to be able to be vibrant, as opposed to, you know, more retirees and, you know, people living in other communities, live in the city. And, you know, so of course I sent him all my links to everything, you know, as far as the things that he's doing. And they actually sat down with the school district and the college is in the town and, you know, and sort of went, well, what could we do? And of course, you know, they wanted lots of spots, but the school district had 2 classrooms that they thought they could get licensed because, again, it's a highly regulated industry. And there's a reason for that. We want children to be safe and healthy. And we know that sometimes that doesn't happen. And so regulations in general come about because things happen that we don't want to happen. Doesn't mean we can avoid everything. But the school district said, we've got 2 classrooms that we want to get licensed. And that's probably 40 funds. And so the university is going to help with the education piece. And the city probably can put some couple $100,000 in to help, you know, offset some of the costs that the parents have to pay so that it can start being more reasonable. Those are the kinds of things that when they start in small steps. And again, we've already had an infrastructure of childcare that have empty classrooms. So we don't really have to create any space at this point. You know, I'm not saying that at some point we need more space and more childcare program, but we've got some that aren't at capacity because they can't staff. And we've got higher eds that certainly have our programs, but it is really hard if you're on the side of that you're trying to get people who have degrees and professions that they can make a living wage at to advocate for people to go into it. You know, and so our early childhood programs, community college level in general, their numbers will decrease. And so by, you know, a number of us have degrees, and yes, you have to have, if you have a teacher's license, you're getting credit every 5 years in order to keep the teacher's license. So the requirements are for everybody when you get that. But that's what happens with any profession. You know, you're going to have to get continuing ed, but those other professional degrees, those people make a little bit more providers. Not just a little bit more money, but a fair amount more money. And so we really have to look at how do we make these professional, and we work real hard to raise, to elevate the professionalism in the field, but we also need to put something behind it so that we can actually recruit people in the college education. So right now, we can't. You know, if you are a parent and your child's going and looking at what they can go into, and you know, people major in history and you can't get a job with a degree in history either. But you know, we can get you a job, but you're not going to be able to make ends meet. And that's not where we want to be. And I'm not saying our teachers are working on anything they need to make either. You know, but you make a heck of a lot more than a child gets to do.
Good afternoon again. My name is Francis Jackson, and I am happy to say that I'm also an educator up until about 2 weeks ago. But I also want to add to what the conversation was at. Last week we attended a Hunt Institute education policy retreat, and I can glad to say it's bipartisan. We all were there, and everything that you all have said this evening was said at this retreat. Your concerns about the university, I saw where that was mentioned also. So there are things being looked at. One of the things that is happening is that the legislature is concerned about being prepared to the workforce, that people who want to come to the state of North Carolina. So they know educators are important, qualified educators. So I heard that this weekend, and I did not mean that. Representative Smith is here. We heard that 2 weeks ago when we were at the retreat, and they did throw out the the $55,000 to $60,000 salary that they are considering. I would love that to take place. I might need to, go ahead and consider education again, but I'm an educator. I love it. I'm also an educator here at FTC. So I know that not only is it hard to get teachers in the classroom, a lot of professions across the board are dealing with shortage of staff. They're dealing with a shortage of qualified educators, qualified planners, qualified managers. So there's a short of everything. But I can tell you that we did discuss education. We attended that. You smiled when I said education policy retreat. I mean, it was professionals, experts across the state were there, and they talked to us, and they told us some of the solutions that we can consider. So I'm hoping the education committee at the legislature would consider all of that. If not, I definitely will remind them attending those meetings. I wasn't placed on the board on that committee, although I asked to be on the committee. I wasn't placed on there. But that does not mean that I cannot remind them of what we learned at this retreat. So I don't know if you want to add anything, Representative Smith, about what we learned for education, concern at the table in Raleigh.
I have a question. So in the beginning, you said that the state is, concerned about education because of bringing businesses to North Carolina. We've talked a lot about, we need more money, there needs to be this, that. So were there any conversations around corporate responsibility? When we bring these large companies to our state, our communities, was there any conversation about what their impact might be? I mean, we know that they need childcare availability for their employees to come to work, but was there any conversation about how individual corporations can or might be expected to?
I did not hear that. I'm not saying it wasn't said or was not intended in the conversation. I will tell you that the legislature, they are concerned about having the infrastructure and the staff in place to accommodate these corporations that want to come to our state. I mean, I can tell you from the standpoint of a planner, and I don't know how many of you all were here, but when I was a planner, we had Brad. Remember Brad?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Brad Kaplan said, make sure you have infrastructure in place. These top-notch officers are coming here. They are accustomed to transit. I worked at transit at the time. They were concerned about transit. They were concerned about school. They were concerned about sidewalks. They were concerned about housing. And when we didn't have that in place, those people came here, they stayed in apartments throughout the week, and they went back home to their families in Atlanta, or they moved over to North Carolina. So we've already learned, I hope the state has learned that lesson. I know as a planner, as a representative, and as a citizen of Cumberland County, I recall that. So having infrastructure and people in place, you have to get it in time. If not, you find yourself in a bad place.
And for anyone that doesn't know, BRAC was the base realignment closure program. And so it was where the federal government shut many military bases. And that's what brought a lot of people here to Fort Bragg. And there was a whole lot of conversation around infrastructure and K-12 and all that. And it just, they overbuilt the market with this. I know that too.
So I can tell you, like I said, even I was a teacher here in Cumberland County School. And where I was a teacher, we were short staffed. And if people we had a combined class, it's hard to get substitute teachers to come in. And there are big challenges that take place in education. I'm sorry,
I know we all we are in this year is going to be a pivotal time for daycare. I can tell you they're very open. Like I feel like I don't know. I'm not. Talking about it, but I'm like that part of that what's going on. Like people are moving, and if they leave, they want to think they're probably not now. Do they take themselves down?
well, like I said, the budget, you all know the budget process is going on. That's all, we have to, part of the conversation, so that's all information I have, and conversations going on, and hopefully. it will help.
Well, we know, all timelines, the biennium for last time, we had more money put into this year's budget. And we still haven't seen all of it in budget in order to get it out to the providers that's already in budget. So a biennium budget that passes by June 30th. Then it has to go into contract, and it will be a little bit before we see it. That's the reality of the bureaucracy.
So in my little brain. Yes. So in my little brain, this would be the fix. It's probably not, it's not a quick fix, but it's a fix. So I feel like early child care professionals should all be paid by the state. I feel like that would cut down on teachers jumping from here to here for another 25 cents. So it would stop people from moving around, because raise or maintain or raise the educational standards. So if you're a teacher, a lead teacher, you have to have a 4-year degree. And an assistant teacher has to have a 2-year degree in early child care. You can be an employee of the state. I am a taxpayer. I had to open up a bank account just to pay taxes. So I'm a taxpayer, and we would all be sharing. The city, the state, the federal government all put money into it, but they will be employees of the state. And that would, in my mind, would fix a lot of the problems. The education would have to be maintained. You wouldn't have people jumping around, and they could have the benefits. You hold us to the standards of the school system. We don't have the budget, and we don't have the benefits. So in my mind, we're expected to give out at some point in time. So it's not a quick fix, but if we're gonna have the standards, let's have the pay and benefits. And if the state can pay, I mean, I don't know where all this state will actually pay, I'm glad it came. I don't know where it came from. Right down from heaven, I guess. I don't know wherever it came from, it can be maintained.
Sean would like the microphone. The stabilization grant money, Mary, correct me if I'm wrong, right now is coming from the federal government through ARPA COVID relief. Yeah, right? They just printed more. Yes. That is the stabilization grant funding that they're using right now. Yeah, we've got people online.
Goes for what Representative Jackson was saying. I do think one encouraging part of our education forum last weekend was just the recognition that these stabilization funds are ending, and so it's not like a plug in the drain. It's not a long-term solution to this issue, and it was from both sides. I think there was a recognition that there is a need for early childhood providers. And a lot of the people we've heard from are not fully staffed, despite the fact that were they fully staffed, they could be able to fill those slots. And that comes down to, I think, your star ranking, knowing that part of that is the staff education. And if you're highly educated, you want to be compensated for time you spend in school and your qualifications. And we're just not meeting the needs of people who choose to seek that higher education, and then also you're competing with K-12. You get higher salaries and benefits in the public education system. It's just hard to compete for those same types of candidates. And so I think one encouraging part was just that recognition that something needs to be done, and that was from both sides of the aisle. And so with the stabilization grants ending, I think there is some exigency there and some immediacy concerns that we need to do something because this is not sustainable. You mentioned the corporations coming in and maybe providing childcare. We didn't really get into that too much. I do remember, a little bit of a pushback from, a fellow freshman on the other side of the aisle, Republican. His pushback there was if we provide, childcare services in our business, somewhere, we're gonna put that extra cost on the consumer. So whatever goods or services we're providing, that's where it's finding that balance, I
Yeah,
guess.
absolutely.
And so that, we didn't get into it, but I remember, and I thought it was a fair point.
Mhm.
And so I think that's where you have to balance, cost to consumer with the benefit you're providing.
Absolutely. And, we just hear a lot about tax dollars. I wonder if there's a conversation around corporate responsibility. And yeah, I mean, they pay taxes too. I was just curious.
Not specifically, but I mean, as far as the corporation providing childcare, I do remember that one time. But happy to continue to keep y'all updated, but I do think there's certainly more of a recognition that this is something that we have to change.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I was going to address, piggyback on what you were saying, and one of the things that floats around in my head all the time is universal pre-K. If we just had universal pre-K for everybody, whether it's birth through 5, 3 through 5, 4 and 5, then folks would be funded appropriately. We could still, I'm not a financial planner, so I'm kind of just a big picture thinker here. But if we did universal pre-K, we could capture that state funding. Public schools, it's called ADM, or average daily membership. And that's the state funding formula for our K-12 population. And if we extended that out to pre-K, you could, in my mind, look at it from a public school point of view. We got 734 kids. And then you look at it from all you that receive subsidies, whether it's through NC pre-K or the child care subsidy or whatnot, stabilization grant. You could look at how many kids we're actually serving and have a actual state funding based on that. Again, I'm not a big picture planner. I know this is a huge shift from where we currently are nationwide. But we're at this point now where there was such an emphasis on in North Carolina, we're completing the science of reading program called Letters in the private sites and in the public schools. And that's, bleeding from DPI to the Department of Public Education or the school system at the state level through Department of Health and Human Services, which is over the private sector. And there's that bleeding over. Talk about the transition plannings that we're literally just got out of a meeting earlier on the kindergarten. And all this networking, we can put it together at a state or national level through universal pre-K, that the funding would follow. But I don't know how we get there, but I think it's a good, let's put a bug in a few elected officials' ears. So
Well, when you talk about universal pre-K and then you at least went back to birth, if you do one segment of that birth to 5, then you start decimating the other segments. So it does have to be the entire age group, has to be universal. And it has to be a blend of all the sectors. It can't be just a public school. They don't have the physical plant to do it. And it can't fall just on the private sites because you probably don't have that capacity either, but it has to be sort of a systems thing, and it is a shift systems thing. It's actually some on the books of what it would look like, but it would be blended funding and it would look at the whole divide system and go on and use all of the sectors. Family childcare homes, right now, family childcare homes aren't part of the NC pre-K system. And I have family childcare homes want to take NC pre-K children, and at this point it's limited to only center-based programs. And so again, if we look at that more universal system, then we have to look at that blending all of those sectors and how putting them together to meet the needs of the children and their families, because families have different needs. And so using all of our sectors to build a more strong system, but it does take changing the way.
So I want to be cognizant of everyone's time here. We'll reach out here at 8. Taking my weird notes, I'll be able to understand before. So this is our 3rd meeting. And we've had a lot of conversation. Some of you have been here for all of them. Some of you, this is your first time. But I've taken notes. Mary and I were having a conversation yesterday about, well, where do we go from here? Because we've talked a lot, right? We've listened, we've talked, we've discussed. So where do we go from here? Obviously, advocating is a big part. And so certainly working with parents and teachers and administrators and helping you build that framework to advocate for what the needs are. And the other part of that is, working on a plan, looking at what's being done in Michigan and other areas, and getting that to our lawmakers and saying, here are some examples in other areas, in other states that work, and really try to be part of that model building. Because we know it's broken here. We know it's broken all across the state. It's not exclusive to Cumberland County. So I think our next step, Mary, will disagree with me if she's wrong. Oh, yes, sir. Sure.
My name is Ross, I'm a parent. I have a question. With Fayetteville being such a diverse, and Cumberland County being such a diverse county within the state of North Carolina, would there be any consideration to a pilot program for the universal pre-K in Cumberland County that might be used as a model for the rest of the state?
That would be someone else's answer, not mine. Mary, he's handed the microphone to you.
We pilot lots of stuff.
We sure do.
But and the danger in piloting is that it doesn't keep moving forward. And again, but I'm all for pilots because I do think the investment to make a shift all the way where it probably needs to be, it can't happen once. There's no way that the federal government or the legislature or the county government or any of the city municipalities can't come up with that kind of money. But we can pilot and look at pockets of what might work. And, if there's, a will and Cumberland County certainly has been able to pilot things. We're piloting Family Connect, which is universal home visiting. The pilot ends in November and I'm losing sleep over that one because there needs to be some other money coming in. But we really do have to look at what we could do, and what's being done in other counties might work here and might just saying that if you're awake and neck, they're putting county money into pre-K, and that's the 4-year-old piece. And Wake's actually doing some 3-year-old, but they have a different tax. And so, but that doesn't mean that it couldn't be a priority. We need to do something. If the city, we're using the city ARPA money to sustain those stabilization for if you live in the city and you're in the zip code, and so we're going to be doing it for the next 3 amendment sign the next 2.5 years, for those sites to be able to do that. So there is will to do some things and to look at. Then the county has been a good partner on thinking of it. Whether we can pilot it, or look at those models, but again, it is how we choose to use our money. And there will always be plenty of different needs. And I'm not saying this isn't any less than another one, because we have a mental health crisis right now too. So I would be remiss to say, oh, give us the early childhood money, and we're not giving them help any, because right now we're all dealing with the health crisis in our programs as well. So, there are lots of needs, but it is how we choose to do it and how we collaborate and leverage, because we actually might be able to leverage a few things and and pilots sometimes get us to the right place. So
So I think it moving forward is, we'll work directly with centers and family child care homes on advocating and what a message around that is. And, certainly teach a little bit about how to advocate. I think the other part of that is to really examine what else is going on in the country and what is working in other states. So I would challenge everybody in here to do a little research. I've got business cards and email address. I'll be happy to get it to you all. And if you find some research, like the Michigan Try Share, take a look at that. There's another program in where were you going? Or was that not you? Okay. Yeah. But see what's out there and what you think is working. Talk to, if you know people in other states. I mean, if you know anybody in New York who it's thriving up there. We didn't shut down the child cares here in North Carolina. Let me tell you that. Like New York did.
Well, some did shut.
Yes, but I mean, not as a whole. So, but yeah, please do a little research and let us know your thoughts on that, because we do want to take action. We don't want to just sit here and talk and bemoan the issue, because it is important, and we know what's going to happen if this implodes further. So, yeah, no, there's one in the chat. Oh, Ben would tell me, trust me. So, any final thoughts, questions, comments, concerns? Who in here is an educator of tiny humans? I've got 10 of these cute little stickers that says educator of tiny humans. I will leave them right here. You can all see them. So anyway.
And today, the educators of tiny humans and parents who are educated of tiny humans, your goal is to keep themselves safe, healthy, and thriving. And that's the most important.
Any parting words, words of wisdom?
Keep sending us questions.
Please.
Talking to your legislators. I mean, this is, I think you're right. It is at the forefront of everybody's thoughts that this system is not working as time, and we are at a tipping point, and we can't just keep talking about it, because the tipping point is here. And it is absolutely an economic development need. It's not, that, we're not doing a good job. We don't have teachers who want to do it. I mean, the people who are doing it, do it, and do it with passion. But you can't run the program without being police. So bunch of directors cooking the meals. That's, and you're doing it because you know, families. And we need all the sectors to know that. It truly is a constitutional need in this state, or requirement that we educate our children from birth. That we do it. Builds the K-12 system, and then makes it so that we have 35-year-olds who can thrive in their communities and take care of those of us who are now getting Medicare and not Social Security. So.
Towards a plan to build the quality that because the quality is not where it should be. And just when we get a solution, it's not going to magically be there. So a plan also to build quality.
Now you're struggling to stay open from day to day, and it's nobody wants just a body, and you actually can't hire bodies. They have to have a little bit more requirements, and they need to know what they're doing. Those children don't come with instruction manuals. Although we teachers, we try to make sure you have a pretty good instruction manual, but it's hard work. Not a person in here who has a child or cares for a child goes home with any energy. But you get up and do it again the next day. Because those tiny babies, tiny beings,
Educator.
those tiny humans are dependent. And our society needs them to thrive.
So thank you all for being here. We have the room for 9 more minutes, so feel free to chat with each other, get to know each other, exchange information. My card's up here if you need my information, and you know, I've got 10 of these educator of tiny humans. I thought they were super cute. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it.
Some days you just try and keep that tiny human alive.